so much going on out there after the ICE shooting of that lady in the car that pretty much ran over that guy. But it's up to the politicians to calm the public down. So Trump administration and all politicians got a lot in their hands in terms of calming people down. Let's take a look at Sunday Morning Future to see what she got to say about all of this, because we live in some crazy times where who fault is it that we're trying to deport illegal immigrants who are here breaking the law? The term says it, illegal migrants. So how can we get them back? It is crazy out there that some people believe they need to go out there and stop law enforcement. Insane. But let's take a look. My name is Noel, by the way, here at Verbal on Life. All right, trying to bring you guys information. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up before you go anywhere. All right, that's the least I'm trying to get. Thumbs up. With that said, let's take a look at Sunday Morning Future with Maria Bartiromo.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Morning Futures. I'm Maria Bartiromo. Interrupting ICE has been deadly. One woman is dead. 2 others are in the hospital this morning for trying to block or interfere with ICE operations. Now, after firing up citizens to stop President Trump, Democrats are pouncing on the administration, calling to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The secretary is here within moments with the department's response, as the Portland police chief is brought to tears while having to admit 2 victims shot were tied to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming. This information in no way is meant to disparage or to condone or support or agree with any of the actions that occurred yesterday.
Meanwhile, the actions across the world, revolution underway in Iran. All power and internet has been shut off in Iran now for 60 straight hours as the Khomeini regime tries to stop Iranian citizens from rising up, taking to the streets all weekend, protesting Iran's leadership in Iran and beyond. The embassy in London also impacted as citizens demand change from the Khomeini regime of terror. President Trump posting support for the Iranian people several times over the weekend, saying freedom is coming and warning the Khomeini regime not to hurt the people or face consequences. Coming up, the man many are chanting to return to power. Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is here in this exclusive. The son of the former Shah of Iran sees visions of freedom ahead, and he is here with his plans to come. Plus, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham with a message to the Ayatollah, to Vladimir Putin, and to the Iranian people, all coming up moments away. Plus, make America healthy once again. New guidelines for health and wellness with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ahead. All coming up right here. It's all right here, right now on Sunday Morning Futures. And we begin this Sunday morning here in America with law enforcement under attack across the country in sanctuary cities and states. Persisting efforts to block or stop Border Patrol and law enforcement from doing their jobs in protecting Americans from illegal immigration and potential criminality. On Wednesday in Minnesota, an ICE officer shot and killed a woman who federal authorities said attempted to use her vehicle as a weapon to evade and run over officers and obstruct ICE agents from doing their job. The following day in Portland, Oregon, a Customs and Border Protection agent shot and wounded 2 others, suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, after DHS said that the driver of that car tried to run over federal law enforcement agents. New data from Homeland Security shows vehicular attacks against ICE officers are up an astonishing 3,200% during President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration. while reported assaults against ICE officers are up more than 1,300% year over year. Despite the spiking rise in violence against federal law enforcement officers, Democrats are blaming the Trump administration and its crackdown on illegal immigration and their enforcement of the rule of law.
I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
What we have now seen and what we are seeing is that ICE is not just becoming an anti-immigrant force in this country, it is becoming an anti-civilian paramilitary organization.
We support the removal of violent felons from this country who are here illegally. But that's not what this administration has been doing under the so-called leadership of Kristi Noem, who's a stone-cold liar.
Joining me now is Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Secretary, thanks very much for being here this morning. You heard what Hakeem Jeffries just said. Now Democrats are moving to try to impeach you. What is your response?
Well, we're going to keep doing our jobs. President Trump promised the American people that he would make America safe again, that we would be out there enforcing the laws and that we would apply them equally, that nobody was above the law and that we were going to start putting American citizens first. So criminal, illegal aliens in this country are going to be brought to justice under his administration. And that's exactly why we surged resources to Minnesota, because their corrupt elected officials at the city level and at the state level allowed fraud to happen, allowed crimes to happen. We've arrested dozens of murderers, rapists, traffickers in that city already, and we're going to continue to do that work to follow through on President Trump's promises.
What more can your officers do to stop the agitators? Obviously, so much has happened. It's hard to know what's true here in terms of people getting shot.
Well, Maria, we're sending more officers today and tomorrow. They'll arrive. There'll be hundreds more. And in order to allow our ICE and our Border Patrol individuals that are working in Minneapolis to do so safely, we're going to continue to, if they conduct violent activities against law enforcement, if they impede our operations, that's a crime. And we will hold them accountable to those consequences. So unfortunately, when you don't have the partnership of the city, Mayor Fry and Governor Walz have been very clear that they're going to continue their rhetoric. They're going to continue to put criminals and corrupt illegal aliens above the people that live in that city and in that state. They've said they're not going to help us. So we'll make sure that we protect our officers, but we also follow through on making sure these criminals are brought to justice.
I mean, it's ironic to see the Democrats so angry over what ICE is doing when, in fact, you look back at the policy and how this all started, and it was a wide open border under the Biden administration. And, you know, there was back and forth and conflict and different opinions about impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas. And yet they all rushed to try to impeach you right now for responding to it.
For responding and telling the truth. I'll remind everyone, Maria, that every single thing that I've said has been factual about what's been going on in Minneapolis, what's been going on in Minnesota, and with the incident that we had where we had a tragic loss of life. These law enforcement officers are trained to be in situations that are dangerous, and they rely on that training each and every day to make the right decisions. And that's what I'm so grateful for, is that we have professionals that stepped up and took an oath to serve this country. The American people support them in that. It's really, really horrific that we have elected officials that are using this as an opportunity to divide, using this to promote an agenda that fundamentally would take away our freedoms and our liberties in this country. And Governor Walz's corruption has been exposed. It's been exposed for years. He's being held accountable to it. So he's trying to divert the attention away from him and his failed leadership. We're going to continue to do our work and specifically focus in Minnesota. And Maria, we've surged HSI officers there specific to focus on sex trafficking and child trafficking. It's so prevalent in Minnesota. It's horrific. And we brought dozens and dozens of those individuals to justice already. We're going to keep hundreds of HSI officers there to continue to protect those children. Every day, we get another individual that was sexual assault against a child, sodomy against a child. I can't believe that the mayor and the governor can defend allowing those people to go out there and victimize more of our children and grandchildren.
Well, I don't understand that. I mean, how is it possible that they're not as interested in ending that as you are. And that was my next question. Why Minnesota? What is happening in Minneapolis that you have been as aggressive as you have in terms of sending more officers there?
Beautiful state.
Well, it is ground zero for stealing of taxpayer dollars and protecting criminals. We have had officers there for years. We've surged officers because we recognized and started to uncover the true, corruption and theft that has happened. Billions and billions of dollars have been stolen from American people. And Maria, these are dollars that were supposed to go to programs to help the most vulnerable, to help people that were disabled or had mental health challenges, or children that were autistic, or to help people transition into their own home and to get back up on their feet. They stole the money from those people and used it to enrich their lives. And many of the times we've dug into this, and it's immigration fraud. They came into this country lying on their documents of why they could come and why they were eligible to use our programs. Joe Biden facilitated this all. And as we uncover more of this criminal activity, we're going to continue to surge resources to make sure that this abuse of government funds and government power no longer continues in Minnesota.
And who is funding these agitators? Where are they getting the resources to keep up trying to block ICE from doing their jobs?
Well, that's part of the investigation as well. There's been nonprofits that have had money funneled into them to train individuals to go out here and to impede law enforcement operations, train them how to go distract them, assault them, and to do exactly what we've seen with these vehicle rammings. We've had over 100 of them in recent weeks where people are using their vehicles as deadly weapons and attacking our officers and training them on how to block streets. And I'll remind everybody that if you get involved and impede a law enforcement operation, you are breaking the law. That is a crime. And at that point in time, that individual needs to be arrested and taken in and charged and convicted for what they're doing to stop justice in the United States. So all of these times you see these rioters out there doing that, they've been trained to do that. They know they're training them to break the law. And the previous administrations allowed it to happen. President Trump is standing up for what's right.
All right. We'll be watching your moves. Secretary, thanks very much for being here this morning. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Maria.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Up next, revolution in Iran. The Trump administration publicly supporting the people of Iran who are rising up aggressively on the streets of Iran, calling for an end to Ayatollah Khomeini's brutal regime. Many calling for the return of the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, the son of the former Shah. His Highness Reza Pahlavi is here in an exclusive interview next with a message for the Iranian people and a plea to President Donald Trump. Stay with us.
Iran is out of control, and Trump got to go fix that, man. Trump is everywhere. Crazy.
Welcome back. Now, revolution underway in Iran. Massive protests against Ayatollah Khomeini and its brutal regime are persisting in Iran as Iranian citizens take to the streets over its failed economy and skyrocketing inflation, up 50%. Food prices surging more than 70%. President Trump has warned Khomeini there will be severe consequences if protesters are killed. But the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Iran is threatening to strike U.S. military bases in the Middle East if the U.S. tries to take down the Iranian regime. Here's the president on Friday.
Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts.
As protesters ramped up on Thursday, the Ayatollah dug in by cutting all internet service and international calls inside the country. The internet has been out for 60 hours so far, with Iranian officials also trying to jam up Elon Musk's Skylink to further isolate the country. As protesters have heeded the call from my next guest, the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi, called on the people to mobilize and take to the streets against the authoritarian government. Demonstrators calling for Pahlavi to return and to lead Iran. Pahlavi's father, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was Shah of Iran from 1941 until 1979, overseeing key modernization initiatives in the country with close ties to both the United States and to Israel. until the extremists and the terrorists overwhelmed the monarchy, forcing the Shah and his wife, Empress Reza Pahlavi, to flee and the Ayatollah to return from exile. Iran then shifted overnight from a U.S. allied monarchy to an anti-Western Islamic regime, soon to become the largest state sponsor of terrorism, funding Hezbollah and Hamas, among other groups. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio posting this weekend on social media that the U.S. stands with the people of Iran, with the president writing this is not the Obama administration when it comes to standing up to the Iranians, Ayatollah and his religious Nazi henchmen, and standing behind the people of Iran protesting for a better life. The president retweeted that tweet from Lindsey Graham, who will be joining me momentarily. To the regime leadership, Graham wrote, your brutality against the great people of Iran will not go unchallenged. Join me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive. In the middle of these calls to return to power and free the people is His Royal Highness, the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. Your Highness, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
We have seen other times when the people have risen up, but it feels different this time. You called for the people to mobilize for 2 straight nights this week. Does it feel different? Assess for us what is taking place this weekend in Iran.
Maria, to put it into perspective, in the last 48 hours, Iranians have suffered more casualties than America did after the 9/11 attack. This is a moment that is defining. Despite being completely cut off from the world, internet shut down, and for a regime that is massacring its own people, this is an opportunity to liberate that nation. Remember, the same thugs that hate America also hate their own people. And this is an opportunity to help a nation that starves for liberty, that starts to be rejoined with the free world, and to have the same relationship that we had with America before this revolution occurred, to liberate ourselves and come back to the fold and contribute to world peace and stability regionally and beyond.
Now, Your Highness, you have called for the opportunity to become the transitional leader. You've said many times with me on this program, you are hoping to be a transitional leader. What is your plan in that transition? What would the first 100 days look like? Because we know that these protests are economic in nature. They are about food and life and democracy second.
Maria, I'm a fighter pilot. I've trained all my life for exactly this moment, and people are calling on me to step in and lead this transition. I'm here to lead and help our nation go through that transition. But beyond liberation, we have to have a plan for a stable, smooth transition, a plan that, unlike other scenarios we witness in our neighborhood, like the de-Baathification in Iraq, will not lead to chaos. We have to ensure stability. We have to be able to protect the citizenry. We have to be able to stabilize the economy. And for that, we have very comprehensive plans. I'm helped by numbers of economists, scientists, jurists, and specialists in every field, so we can, in fact, address all of these issues the moment the opportunity comes. More importantly is what we're doing right now. As you can see, people are still fighting despite this crackdown. They hope that there will be assistance in protecting them from further bloodshed. I've called upon further strikes, and that's beginning to unfold. We're beginning to see more and more defections, which is very important as part of the transition. So all of this is at play as we speak.
You have tweeted directly at President Trump, and you have a message for President Trump. What is that message, sir?
Mr. President, you have already established your legacy as a man committed to peace and fighting evil forces. There is a reason why people in Iran are renaming streets after your name. Yeah. They know that you are totally opposite to Barack Obama or Joe Biden. They know that you're not going to throw them under the bus as they have had before. This is why they believe that this time they are empowered by the hope that you have their back. Your words of solidarity with the Iranian people and your administration has had tremendous positive effect. Let's hope that we can permanently seal this legacy by liberating Iran so that we and you can make Iran great again. Let's partner on this and have a better future for our countries and for our people. This is an opportunity that has presented itself. I'm prepared to return to Iran at the first possible opportunity. I'm already planning on that and the transition team. We hope only that the Iranian people this time will be victorious, and they will be, because I know that Iranians are prepared to die for this cause, and so am I. We're doing everything we can, and I think it's not just for us as Iranians, it's for the whole world. Iranians are prepared to sacrifice not just for themselves, but to make sure that all the evil that has been brought by this regime from the time it came to power dissipates, and we can finally breathe in an atmosphere of tranquility, good relationship with our neighbors, with the Israelis, with our Arab neighbors, and the rest of the world. And this will happen because, unlike this regime, this is the commitment of a nation.
Are you willing to make the commitment to free and fair elections after the transition? Sir, how long are you expecting a transition to take, and what happens then?
The most important process in the democratic process is for the people to have the opportunity to have their representative debate all what needs to be debated in a parliamentary process. My job is to lead this transition, to make sure that no stone is left unturned, that in full transparency, people have an opportunity to elect their leaders freely and to decide their own future. Under international observation, we will know that this will be fair and fair elections. I am committed to that. That has always been my objective. But it is important that we have a good process established so the world understand, and the people of Iran, most importantly, understand exactly this time how we're going to achieve that. Unlike what happened 47 years ago, where nobody really had a clue what it would mean to have what Khomeini planned for Iran. And by the time they woke up to it, it was too late. This time, we cannot afford not to be clear on the alternative. I think the alternative is clear. The people have spoken. They have their trust in me, and I've stepped in at their request to provide them with that process. I'm committed to that, and I will do everything that I can to ensure that we end up with a democratic alternative in Iran.
So how long do you expect the transition to take?
A couple of years.
We have to try to do it as soon as possible. Realistically speaking, it could take a couple of years because a lot of things need to happen and people need to be able to organize themselves, the right structures and everything. So it's a process that shouldn't take longer than that. And it all depends on how successful we are in implementing the immediate short-term needs that will stabilize the country. All of that will have an impact on how quickly we can address that issue and bring the transition period to a minimum amount of time possible.
The Trump administration a week ago went into Venezuela and extracted the leader there, Maduro. And do you believe that incident galvanized the people in Iran?
Look, every time countries are liberated anywhere in the world, it's a positive message of encouragement to other nations that are still gripping up with unwanted systems and regimes. It's a message of solidarity across the world. People were empowered when they saw the success of Nelson Mandela in South Africa or the success of Lech Walesa in Poland, and so on and so forth. And in this case, our Venezuelan friends who have the same optic and vision of a tomorrow liberated Iran, because unlike the connection of Caracas, Tehran under these two regimes, they can understand that democratic nations will be the best partners possible. I'm happy for the Venezuelan people. I think the Iranian people get encouraged by that. And that's why I think the commitment to help the Iranian people in their liberation is not just, as I said, for the best interest of the Iranian people, but it is also in the best interest of the world, and particularly the United States of America.
And would you be willing to actually run in a potential election? I mean, you just said you were a fighter pilot. You were trained in the United States. Are you willing to take off the uniform after a transition and say, yes, I am going to run in an election, and we will see who the people decide is their next leader?
As I said, I'm here to lead, but the choice is that of the people. My job right now is to make sure that we achieve that transition, that as an honest arbiter, I'm a unifying force. That's why they're calling my name, because they have their trust in me. It's a huge responsibility that I intend to carry out to the best of my ability.
Your Highness, there is an issue about the Chinese Communist Party as part of this story as well. The Chinese finalized a deal back in 2021 to acquire ports in Iran. Are there plans to try to separate from the Chinese Communist Party? How do you see that playing out?
Look, Maria, this regime, out of weakness, have offered far too many concessions, whether to Russia or to China. We don't believe that the future of Iran has to be antagonistic to Russian or Chinese interests. We just don't want to have unfair, imposed, imbalanced arrangements. Most of these arrangements have been unfair and balanced, and it's basically dividing our country in our national interest. So long as we can defend our national interests, we are prepared to deal with any bloc, so long as it's based on fair trade. And I think this is an element that will obviously be an issue of discussion in parliament and future governments in Iran as we determine our foreign policy and relationship with the whole world.
So you think that that could be part of the conversation, trying to get the CCP out of owning those ports?
As I said, this is something that has to be decided once we have a functioning democratic government. In the meantime, we have to be able to also protect the best interests of our nation. And that's why we should have an open mind as to how to deal with that, because we don't need to have further confrontation with anyone. We have to bring it back to sanity, responsible, pragmatic, and objective analysis, and see what's best. And hopefully we can have, based on mutual interest, a different arrangements than the one that we currently have, that is totally lopsided and undermines Iran's national interests. That we cannot stand for, and I will not stand for.
Yeah, and this story is so enormous to actually think about the idea of potential freedom and a free Iran. I don't see a lot of the international media covering it, like the BBC, for example. What is your take on the media's role here?
But look, mainstream media is entirely missing the actual narrative and us that the people of Iran have. And again, when you have absence of internet and the feedback from Iran, it is very difficult for the world to understand really what's happening. Yeah. I hope that the media ultimately feel responsible in giving fair coverage to the facts on the ground in Iran, rather than to offer some unfounded opinions or biased interpretation of what's happening. But, regardless of whether the media coverage exists or not, we know what we need to do as a nation. But I think the world that has been in awe of the courage and determination of our compatriots have bypassed mainstream media. They do hear from the Iranian people. I just hope that they do their professional job, and this time really have accurate accounting of what's really happening, and let the people judge on their own, as opposed to push an opinion on people.
And Your Highness, before you go, I want to get your take on these threats from the Iranian Khomeini regime, saying that they will target U.S. military bases in the Middle East should the Trump administration get involved here. Are you expecting the administration, do you want to see the administration go into Iran and take out Khomeini? And what about the threats that they will hit back at our military installations in the Middle East?
Look, the people of Iran have responded and reacted positively to a promise of intervention by the president and his administration, that if the regime turns their gun and continue massacring its own people, that will not remain unanswered. That's the ask on the ground. We need to make sure that this time the Iranian people are successful. That kind of assistance will go a long way in letting the Iranian people prevail in this war that we have against this regime. And we need to cut the snake's head off for good, so it can no longer be a threat to our Iranian interest, to American interest, to regional interest. And the only solution is to make sure that this regime goes down for good and the Iranian people can liberate themselves, because they are, contrary to this regime, that is a sworn enemy of America. We Iranians are a friend to America. We proved it before, and we'll prove it again.
Your Highness, when was the last time you were in Iran?
It was July of 1978. So it's been a long time.
Your Highness, it's wonderful to have you this morning.
But I'll be there soon.
Yes, we will be watching. Thank you, sir.
That's crazy. He hasn't been there since 78. That's a whole life. Jesus. Iran, man, they need help. Hopefully Trump will help them.
In a moment, we will get reaction from Senator Lindsey Graham on the breaking news we just heard from the exiled Crown Prince, His Highness Reza Pahlavi. That is coming up momentarily. But first, the Trump administration turning the food pyramid upside down in an effort to help make Americans healthier. The new FDA guidelines call for more protein and whole foods and less sugar and processed foods. One of the goals of the new initiative is to reduce healthcare costs, as the U.S. has seen a sharp increase in obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic diseases that cost taxpayers some $600 billion a year, according to the White House. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Secretary Kennedy, great to see you this morning. Thank you so
Let's fix the audio. Sorry about that.
much for being here.
Maria, thanks for having me.
And I want to get your take on...
Okay.
Welcome back. In just a moment, we will get reaction from Senator Lindsey Graham on the breaking news we just heard from the exiled Crown Prince, His Highness Reza Pahlavi. That is coming up momentarily. But first, the Trump administration turning the food pyramid upside down in an effort to help make Americans healthier. The new FDA guidelines call for more protein and whole foods and less sugar and processed foods. One of the goals of the new initiative is to reduce healthcare costs, as the U.S. has seen a sharp increase in obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic diseases that cost taxpayers some $600 billion a year, according to the White House. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
Secretary Kennedy, great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Maria, thanks for having me.
And I want to get your take on why now you decided to change the guidelines for diet and health. Walk us through those guidelines and what the impact will be.
Well, you know, Brooke Rollins and I were confirmed on the same day. Brooke, of course, is the USDA secretary. And we began working on this project at President Trump's directive. Back then, it's taken us almost a year. We assembled the best food scientists in the world from the greatest American universities, and they have been a quarter debating these issues, looking at the science, and we've come up with guidelines that are actually going to benefit American health. The prior guidelines were driven not by health interests, but by mercantile interests of the food industry, which had captured FDA. And it was that impulse that drove Fruit Loops to the top of the food pyramid. We've now flipped the food pyramid, and we are urging Americans to eat real food, eat whole food, meats and healthy fats like dairy, fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And today, Mary, you know, we're spending $5 trillion annually on health. We spend 3 times per capita what European countries do. And we have the worst health outcomes, and it's mainly driven by food. About 40 cents in every taxpayer dollar now goes to food-induced chronic diseases. So the only way that we're going to lower healthcare costs in this country is by helping Americans to change their diet and eat healthy food. And this is the first major step.
You know, it seems so obvious, some of these things, Secretary, with all due respect. I mean, of course, we want to lessen sugar in our diets. Why did it take so long to make this an actual guideline of a policy? And how significant an impact will this have? Because it seems to me that if you're going to get ahead of disease, then you're going to live longer. You're gonna have to spend less on your own health care, and it saves the government and taxpayers money. What is your vision in terms of the overall impact, and how long will it take to take impact?
I mean, I think the reason that it took so long is that we have not had a president previously that's been willing to stand up to these very, very powerful interests, the food producers, the soda industries, which had dictated the parameters of this program. And now we do. This will change the dietary culture in our country. The most immediate impact that we're going to see is with military meals, with federally subsidized programs like SNAP, like the tribal health programs, like Head Start, and many others. It's going to change the diet in those programs, in prisons, any place with the federal government, in school lunch programs. Well, any place where the government is involved in subsidizing food is now going to change, and that will change the markets. We have, 78% of SNAP recipients, of food stamp recipients, end up on Medicaid. So we are paying for 10% of the SNAP prior to when we got in here was going to soda drinks, which are poisoning people and giving them diabetes. 38% of American teens are now diabetic or pre-diabetic. That was essentially zero when I was a kid. Now it's 1 out of every 3 kids who walks into a pediatrician office. And we can change that with diet. Most people, most type 2 diabetes can lose their diagnoses simply by changing diet. It's much more effective than pharmaceutical drugs or pharmaceutical interventions or medical interventions.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're doing is Brooke Rollins is requiring that any facility, any store that accepts food stamps will have to double the amount of whole food that is now available to recipients. So that will change the marketplace around the world, around the country. We're going to make sure that every American family that affordable whole food is available to them at prices that they can afford.
Yeah. Secretary, this is so important. So many people are listening to you on every word. And I'm so happy to hear you say that this is going to trickle down into school cafeterias and into the lunch programs in school for our children. Are you getting blowback from any of the food companies, the makers of those sodas that you just talked about?
I'm very gratified that the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics has gotten behind the new food pyramid. We are encountering resistance, and we will continue to.
Yeah.
The American Heart Association has been a critic, but that's an association that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a year from processed food companies.
Wow.
And what we're trying to do is to get rid of those conflicts of interest so that Americans can get good health advice and can follow direction that is going to actually improve American health.
Secretary, we so appreciate your changes and your leadership, sir. Thank you. Secretary Kennedy joining us this morning. Quick break, and we'll be back with Senator Lindsey Graham. Stay with us.
It's crazy to have somebody who actually care about our diet.
Ranks on Thursday, siding with all Democrats to advance a resolution that would block President Trump from using military force against Venezuela unless he receives prior approval from Congress. The Senate is expected to take up a final vote on the War Powers Resolution this week, with only a simple majority vote needed to pass. Joining me now ahead of all of that is South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you for being here. And I want to get your reaction to what we just heard from Reza Pahlavi. But first, can you tell me about this war resolutions? Why is the Senate trying to clip President Trump's wings at a time that the world is getting more dangerous? We just saw what's going on right now in Iran.
The War Powers Act was passed in 1973 by a bunch of liberal Democrats. It's a power grab by the Congress against the commander-in-chief. Every president since 1973 has rejected the idea that Congress can substitute our judgment for theirs. So what these five are good friends. They're creating a situation where you have 535 commander-in-chiefs, not one. There's never been a court case in the history of the country where a military operation was terminated by the Supreme Court because Congress didn't approve. There have been 130 military operations by the commander-in-chief without congressional approval. So here's my point. You're creating a disaster for the country. If a member of Congress doesn't like what the president's doing as commander-in-chief militarily, cut off funding for that operation. We have power of the purse. You can do that. If you think the president doing something illegally, you can impeach him. But we can't have a situation where Congress becomes commander-in-chief. That would be a disaster. This is an unconstitutional power grab. To my colleagues, you're doing a lot of damage. You're emboldening our enemies. You're restricting President Trump. Unconstitutionally sound, doing a lot of damage. Stop it.
Senator, over the weekend, you tweeted about
Can I have one last thing?
Yes.
I've been a military lawyer for 33 years. I was a judge, advocate in the Air Force. I was a prosecutor, defense attorney, military judge. I feel comfortable talking about this. What you're doing is wrong. Go ahead.
Senator, over the weekend, you tweeted to the Iranian leadership, the Khomeini regime. You said, if you hurt the people, if you kill protesters, this will not go unchallenged. What are you saying? Do you want America to go into Iran and take out the Ayatollah?
I don't want a military invasion of Iran. I don't want any boots on the ground. But President Trump has chosen wisely to be with the protesters. He's the first president since 1979 to pick the people over the Ayatollah. President Trump says, if you continue to kill your people, all hell will break out, all hell to pay. That's as strong as when Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. President Trump is not Obama. He picked the people over the Ayatollah. Here's what's going to happen. We got to make action match the words. I'm looking for action, not an invasion, that will do three things. Be a game changer. The people will be emboldened. The Ayatollah will be deterred. If we don't create deterrence after whatever action we take, we made a mistake. If the protesters are not stronger after the action we take, we've made a mistake. So we're in a spot now. This is the biggest deal since the fall of the Berlin Wall. Regime change is what we're talking about, not from Lindsey Graham, but from the people. The people of Iran are tired of living the way they live. If you're a 16-year-old girl and you don't wear the hairdress right, they take you off a bus and they kill you. The people don't want the Ayatollah anymore. I don't want him. If we can get rid of him, it'd be the best thing could ever happen. But if he stays, if after the people go back into the streets yet again, they've done this before, Trump's got their back, Obama didn't. But if he hangs on, the Ayatollah, it'd be the biggest disaster in the Mideast, like maybe forever. If the Ayatollah goes, it's the best change in the history of the Mideast in 1,000 years.
Well, you said on Fox last week, a message to you, Ayatollah Khomeini, if you kill citizens, Donald Trump is going to kill you. That's what I want to talk about when we come right back.
Hold that thought,
Hold that thought. We'll be right back with Senator Lindsey Graham. Stay with us.
That's crazy. What Trump is doing is legendary.
Welcome back. And I'm back with Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, on Fox last week, you said if the Khomeini kills its citizens, Donald Trump will kill him. There are reports that he could flee to Russia. Do you want President Trump and the U.S. military to go in and extract the Ayatollah from Iran?
I don't care if they extract him, but I want him to be considered. He's the modern day Hitler. He's a religious Nazi. He's a horrible person. It's time for him to go. The people want him to go. Trump has done what Reagan did. Reagan went to the Berlin Wall and said, tear this wall down. Donald Trump picked the people over the Ayatollah. Donald Trump says the best way to make Iran great again is for the protesters to win and the regime to come down. How do you do that? Whatever action we're going to take, Mr. President, needs to embolden the protesters and scare the hell out of the regime. If I were you, Mr. President, I would kill the leadership that are killing the people. You've got to end this. If it ends well, then peace breaks out. All the state sponsor of terrorism activity stops. Hezbollah, Hamas, they go away. Israel and Saudi make peace, a new day in the Mideast. If the Ayatollah hangs on, it's a giant Obama step backward. I have faith in you, Mr. President. I have trust in you. You are the Ronald Reagan plus of our time. End this will. Stand with the people, Mr. President. Let them know you're going to.
All right, that's crazy. You know, I think people should be honest and point out the fact that the actions the president is taking nowadays are legendary. Like what he did with Venezuela, put fear on every country around the world, showing the force and the strength of the United States and what we are capable of doing. Insane. But hey, if you're still watching, give this video a thumbs up. That's all I really want. My name is Noel, here at Verbal on Life. Bring you guys the real news, because nowadays with the fake news, we got to go to other streams to get the real facts of what's going on out there, and the fact that this administration in America is legendary, finally making everybody proud to be an American, and the things we're able to do. Like, we have the strongest military, well then show it. And that's exactly what Trump did. Going to Venezuela and pulling out the fake president in just what, an hour or less? That's legendary. But let's see what he does with Iran. I think they're going to give up. But comment down below. Let me know what you think. because what's going on out there is crazy. Not just out there, but in America with the ICE agents and that poor lady that was convinced into going to try to stop ICE agents. She ended up unaliving herself. That's insane. But, I think we need more politicians going out there and just calming the people down. What happened wasn't called for, but she was breaking the law. What are we supposed to do? Like, can we all just go up against the law? I don't think so. If you go up against law enforcement, things happen. Unfortunately, but again, it's Noel over here at Verbal on Life. Try to stream and keep you guys informed. With that said, see you guys in the next video. Peace. Whoa.